War. War never changes.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a long time since I've uploaded. The last one was a couple months ago, but I've had a lot of problems with OBS recently, and all of the footage that I've had after doing several runs, like a fist-only run for Skyrim, a fist-only run for Fallout, among a couple others, including working on a shouts-only run for Skyrim, all of that footage was corrupted, and I couldn't bring myself to play that game again, just out of pure frustration. So today I decided, can you beat Fallout 4 as a baseball enthusiast? So the parameters for this run is I can only wear baseball attire, such as batting helmets, baseball uniforms, or athletic uniforms, and I can only use baseball type weapons, such as baseball bats, baseball grenades, and the baseball launcher, which I don't use a whole lot in this run because I forgot it existed, quite honestly. Anyways guys, I'm glad to be back and I hope you enjoy the video. With all that being said, let's get into it. Me being lazy, I just decided to go innate instead of making a new character. I then stare out the window like a pit bull staring at a UPS man waiting for the Vault Tech rep to come talk to me. I don't care if the dog's name is Princess or not, I know damn well if it gets through that door we're not having a tea party. Me and most dogs have a special type of relationship. I don't bother them and they don't try to murder me. I never play Melee and Fallout games, so I had to look up the stats on Google for the best build for Melee, and apparently this was it. I then tickle the tiny demon in my house and have a conversation with my wife.
And miss the World Series? Not gonna happen.
I then get hot, get cold, get hot again, watch my wife get murdered, get cold again, and then thaw out once more. And finally, I can start the run. I make my way through the vault without touching a hair on these rad roaches' heads because I don't have a baseball bat yet, and that would fail the run right off the start. After locking the roaches out of the overseer's office, grabbing the supplies inside, and using the terminal to open the evacuation chamber, I make my way outside where I find more roaches that I can't do anything to. After breaking the ankles of countless rad roaches, I wait till the meter goes back from danger to hidden so that I can pick the Pip-Boy up. I then do that and we open the vault and I'm officially outside. I then make my way to the house past Red Rocket where a guaranteed baseball bat spawns so that we can finally have a weapon and kick this run off. When I'd first imagined this challenge, I was going to use bubblegum to heal only, seeing as baseball cards used to come with bubblegum, but I quickly decided that that wasn't going to work out as A, I couldn't find any bubblegum, and B, it only heals 10 HP. Anyways, I then fast traveled back to Sanctuary to put some attachments on the bat before I go to Concord. Even though when I did go to Concord, I didn't even do the Museum of Freedom quest or free Preston Garvey at all because I didn't want to fight the Deathclaw at the end. While there, I also spam build some shelves to get my first few levels so I can buy perks such as Big League and Blacksmith so that I can modify the baseball bat and do more damage with it. I then deal with the raiders outside the Museum of Freedom for some experience and to take their loot to sell later. After dealing with them, I make my way to Trudy at the diner to sell all the stuff to her, but not before stopping off at Trash Can Carla to ask for directions to Diamond City. I thought that if you asked Trash Can Carla for directions to Diamond City, it would give you a quest marker. Turns out it doesn't, and I just wasted my time by talking to her. I then deal with Wolfgang and Simone outside the diner to get some money from Trudy. This gives me an idea to do a gifts and rewards run only. If you guys would like to see that in the future, let me know. Anyways, I then sell all of their belongings to Trudy and then start making my way to Diamond City. Along the way, I decide to help Paladin dance with his ghoul problem, even though I don't side with the Brotherhood in this run. Continuing on, I decide to mark CIT on the map for later so that I can just fast travel back when it's time to kill the Courser. Upon getting closer to Diamond City, I find the guards outside fighting some super mutants. Sometimes when you come across this encounter, you can get a free set of Diamond City security armor from one of the security officers that dies to the super mutants. Unfortunately, in this run, I did not get that. Oh well, anyway, I help the Diamond City security guards finish off the super mutants and then make my way to the town. Once inside Diamond City, I make my way straight to Mo Crone to give him a history lesson and also pick up not only our armor for this run, but the unique baseball bat that he sells. While speaking to him, I also get the quest Out in Left Field as it's a baseball themed quest and it seemed necessary. I then stop off at Valentine Detective Agency to begin the search for my Hellspawn. Once I get there, I find the detective is missing. I guess I'm going to find two people today. Emerging from the detective agency, I find a hostage situation going on. Much like Ronald Reagan, I don't negotiate with terrorists. Once I arrive at the quest location, I deal with the Mirelurks while picking up the quest memorabilia for Mo. After that, I head back to Mo Kron to give him the items to complete the quest. I then head back to Sanctuary to make modifications to my baseball bat before making my way to the subway to go rescue Nick Valentine. Dealing with the triggermen in this game is never really a challenge, as they don't wear any armor. Even though they put out high damage, it's not enough to make a difference. Entering the vault, I continue my rampage down, bashing countless triggermen that stand in my way. Further into the vault, I encounter a certain meathead named Dino, who is guarding the prison cell of one robotic detective, Nick Valentine. After hitting a home run off of Dino's dome plate, I open the door and strike up a conversation with Nick Valentine. Exiting the vault, we are confronted by Skinny Malone and some triggermen, along with Darla. Unfortunately for her, there is only one baseball bat champion in this wasteland, and that is me. Exiting the vault, I strike up a conversation with Nick, who tells me to meet him back in Diamond City so that we can talk about my missing son. I then meet up with Nick Valentine to discuss the pop quiz of who took my son. After exchanging notes on the test with Nick Valentine, we figure out that the answer is a bald man with a scar who goes by the name of a cereal brand who coincidentally has a house in town. Seeing as I don't have any points into lockpicking at this part of the game, I go borrow a key from the mayor to open Kellogg's house. Investigating Kellogg's house, I then find his 50 Shades of Grey bunker. I mean, seriously, this room looks weird, all jokes aside. Like, who has a hidden room with a chair in the middle and nothing else? I mean, seriously, I know Kellogg is a mercenary and all that's supposed to be cold-blooded, but that just seems weird to me. I then contract one good boy to hunt down Kellogg and my son. Nick Valentine in tow, I then set off to Fort Hagen. I then fast travel to Fort Hagen as I had visited previously to get the marker so that I wouldn't have to go along the beaten path that the story lays out for you, because it takes longer than I'd like it to. Once inside Fort Hagen, after multiple deaths, I decide that maybe now isn't the best time to do this and leave to prepare a little bit more before returning. Fast traveling back to the subway where I rescued Nick Valentine, I then make my way to Good Neighbor to mark it on the map later for the Memory Den quest. I then turn around and head to Old North Church so that I can join the railroad and do a few missions to unlock Ballistic Weave for my baseball uniform. Eventually, I just end up siding with the railroad for this entire run, as I already had some of their quests done and just figured why not. After smashing my way through the church's pre-war inhabitants, I make my way to a puzzle, which once opened, lets me inside a chamber. Once inside, I speak with Desdemona and take Deacon up on a mission to join the railroad. Meeting up with Deacon, we prepare to assault the old railroad HQ, but after we figure out that the scents are inside, we decide to go through their back door. That line was in no way sexual, and if you thought it was, get your mind out of the gutter. I know the type of person you are. Using baseball grenades in the Rockville Slugger, I make quick work of the scents inside, moving further into the tunnel on my way to retrieve Carrington's prototype. Smashing my way through the last of the scents, Deacon opens the vault so that I can retrieve Carrington's prototype, and then he gives me the Deliverer, which is completely useless in this playthrough, and I will sell later for caps. I return to find Deacon lying through his teeth to Desdemona. I then try to lie with him, fail the speech check, she calls me out on my BS, and then officially lets me join the railroad, which is great because it puts me on the track to getting Ballistic Weave. Once inside, I give Dr. Carrington his prototype, and then start another railroad mission. But before I leave, I let Tom give me a shot of go-go juice to nuke all of the, as he says, microbots placed by the Institute in our food and water. I don't know how true that statement is, but seeing as the Institute uses robotic birds, much like the in real life version of American government with their robotic pigeons outside my window every day, I don't want to chance it. I then transport an escaped synth with the help of a man named High Rise. I say help, but it's mostly a hinder because he kept stopping every 5 minutes to stare at the sky. While doing the mission, I encounter my greatest challenge yet, an auto turret that's been well placed by the raiders, along with the raiders who set it up. The raiders pose little to no threat to me, but the auto turret being set up high makes using my baseball bat on it quite a challenge. Though dipping back behind the pillars set next to it and peeking out once I've healed up to get a hit in on it, I eventually take it down. Also, if you've made it this far after a solid 9 minutes of my mic sounding like absolute hot garbage, I much appreciate it. I now have the mic system worked out to where it'll sound good, and it will sound like this for all future uploads and the remainder of the video. I then reach the tower with high rise and deliver the synth to safety. Well, that completes that mission, so it's back to the railroad I go to get another one so that I can further my progress towards Ballistic Weave. After doing a few miscellaneous missions, I finally get the mission from Pam to be able to open the cache that leads me to getting Ballistic Weave. There's not much to mention here as there's only a few level scaled gunners inside, and I make quick work of them. Making my way back to Tom at the railroad HQ, he tells me that I now have Ballistic Weave unlocked, so I can finally have some protection for this playthrough. After doing some trading in Goodneighbor, I find the materials I need to equip my baseball uniform with Ballistic Weave. I then make my way to Sanctuary, equip it, and this run can now continue. I then proceed to make my way inside of Fort Hagen so that I can bash a copyrighted cereal company with my baseball bat and a pocket full of drugs the way God intended. Wrapped in the comfortable protection of my Ballistic Weave armor, inside I begin to beat and bash my way through the abominations to humanity known as synths. As they violate every natural law, they have to die. I understand that saying that while playing a railroad playthrough is a bit confusing, but I'm nothing if not confusing. I then confront Mr. Frosted Flakes, and you'd think my first question would be, why did you kill my wife, or what did you do with my son? But no, my first question is going to be, why the hell do you have a sex dungeon in your apartment in Diamond City? I then use said pocket full of drugs that I mentioned earlier, make my way into the room, and before he can even start a conversation with me, he takes my chain wrap bat straight to the teeth. I then strip Kellogg's body nude, take all of his belongings, get a clue to where my kid went, and then it's off to talk to Nick Valentine and Piper. After going through Kellogg's memories, where it thankfully skips his teenage phase, I then figure out that I need to go to the Glowing Sea and find a man named Virgil. Trekking in the Glowing Sea is going to be one of the hardest, if not the hardest challenge of this run. The baseball uniform gives me little to no rad protection, and neither does the batter helmet, so that leaves me with only Rad-X to protect me. Thankfully by this point I already had a good bit of Rad-X, and if I needed any extra I could just go pick it up in Diamond City from some of the vendors. I then find a group of people living at the crater of Adam who are actually surprisingly intelligent. Most people would call them crazy cultists, but also most people believe that birds are real and that the CIA is not constantly watching them. Well, anyways, the leader then points me to Virgil, who's living out in a cave, so I start to make my way there, as it's not far from my current location. Outside of Virgil's cave, I encounter a Deathclaw that's camping his doorway. With me being weak and only having the baseball bat, it was a pretty long and hard fight. That being said, somehow I managed to come out on top, and I don't really know what happened, so I'm just going to let you see that footage for yourself. Now that that's over, I then head into Virgil's cave to talk with him about how to get into the Institute. After a short talk, he tells me to go to the MIT ruins to start tracking down a courser because we need the courser chip that's in the courser's head. Try saying that 10 times fast. But we're not going there, because first, we're going to go to Jamaica Plains and get the 2076 World Series baseball bat because it's hilarious to see people go flying when you hit them with it. And that's the only reason, as it gives no tactical advantage over my current baseball bat, but I just like watching people go flying. On my way to Jamaica Plains, I encounter a group of settlers and a preacher who are having a funeral service for one of their friends. Initially, I just intended to stop and watch with them until they all started acting like they didn't want me to be there. Unfortunately for them, I don't pick up on social cues, get mixed up, and end up murdering every single one of them. Arriving at Jamaica Plains, I make my way to the Jamaica Plains Town Hall, marinate my baseball bat with sweet mushy ghoul brains, and then make my way to the basement to get my new baseball bat. I then try to take out all the lasers in the hallway to the vault, but end up stepping on one and dying. Round 2, and I decide to actually use the card that I picked up earlier to bypass all of the lasers and make my way into the vault. After collecting my new baseball bat, I head to Diamond City as well as Sanctuary to do prepping before I have to fight the courser. I then arrive at the MIT ruins to start tracking the courser so that I can murder him and go digging in his head. Inside, the gunners pose little to no threat to me, and I bash their soft skulls against the walls of the building and quickly make my way to the courser to give him the same treatment. Once I meet the courser, we have a quick chat.
I'm here to pick up an order. 2 large pepperoni and a calzone. Name is fuck you.
After which I proceed to beat the absolute brakes off of this man. Then after I'm done with him, I execute the gunners in the room and let the synth free. I then return to Railroad HQ to get the chip decoded. I then beep beep beep. I then returned to Railroad HQ to get the chip decoded so that I can make my way inside the Institute and find my son. Well, now it's time to build the teleporter so I can make my way into the Institute, so I go set up a safe house for the railroad at Starlight Drive-In, and once that's done, I build the teleporter there. But, as per usual, before Desdemona lets me go inside the Institute, she has something else for me to do. I swear next playthrough I'm murdering her and the entire Railroad HQ. Anyways, I then meet my fake son, and afterwards I meet my real son. There's nothing really to mention here up until the Battle of Bunker Hill. Once I arrive at Bunker Hill, I immediately take out my Courser escort and get ready to go in bashing Brotherhood and Institute alike. Once inside, I continue to beat up on the Brotherhood of Steel, rescue the synths, and then meet back with Father to get the "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed" talk. Well, the next item up on the metaphorical chopping block is the mass fusion building. Turns out that chopping block wasn't so metaphorical, as once I'm inside, I take my bladed baseball bat and slice up the Brotherhood into tiny pieces. We continue on through the building until we reach the reactor room, where I take a mountain's load of rad eggs and walk in there and grab the core barehanded, like a real man. We then deal with the robots and return to the Institute to install the core into the reactor. I then return to the Railroad HQ to inform Desdemona that we're about to be attacked by the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood that attack are not much difficult than the ones that I fought at Bunker Hill, so it's really not a hard battle. Glory then dies. Cue the laugh track. Well, it's time to deal with the Brotherhood. I meet up with Tinker Tom outside the Cambridge police station, and he tells me about a plan to turn the Pridwin into a Black Hawk Down scenario. I'm not gonna lie to you, initially, I was gonna wear my baseball uniform onto the Pridwin and just fight all of the Brotherhood members, but then I remembered that things called Gatling lasers existed, and Elder Maxon has one with a legendary effect. So yeah, needless to say, I just put on the Brotherhood uniform and snuck on instead. Once inside the Pridwin, I then place improvised explosive devices, then make my way outside and onto the Vertibird so that I can watch the fireworks from a safe distance. After we set off the charges, the Pridwin then crashes into the airport, clearing out all the Brotherhood soldiers, and now we only have one fight left, and that's the Institute. I then talk to Z-114 and tell him it's time to help the other synths escape. And after that, it's bashing time. We then teleport the railroad agents in, and we start freeing the synths that want to be free and killing the ones that don't. Fighting my way through the synths here is not really a problem, as majority of them are just unnamed synth striders, or just normal synths, or Institute scientists, so they don't have a lot of armor. I then have a talk with my dying son, and make his death a little bit faster.
But I hope...
I then use the terminal to unlock the doors so that we can continue further to blow the Institute up. I then place the bomb in the reactor, and we teleport out of here so that we can blow the Institute up from a safe distance. But before we get out of the Institute, I have to decide what to do with my fake son. Playing the railroad playthrough, I decide to bring him with me out of the Institute. We then teleport out of the Institute, I get to press the shiny red button, the Institute blows up, and this run is officially complete. That was a pretty fun and relaxed run for this game. Everyone says you can't ever really go wrong with the melee build in this game, and they're right. After I got ballistic weave for my baseball uniform, this run was a breeze. The bat just puts out so much damage, and with the mods that I put on it, that damage just increased. This was a pretty fun run for me to do, and once again I want to apologize for how long it took me to get this run out to you guys. As I mentioned in the start of the video, I had a lot of problems with my recording software, but I swapped softwares, got a graphics card, and now everything's working much better. If you like this video and you want to see more of what I do, I have 2 other videos out that are both Skyrim runs if you want to go watch them. Make sure to leave this video a like and a comment if you enjoyed. And if you really enjoyed or I just really tickled your fancy, hit that subscribe button and the notifications so that you'll be notified when I post my next video, which hopefully will not be as long as it took me to get this one out. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. The next video that I'm thinking about doing is a Cooper Howard run. If you want something different than that, or you just have suggestions for future runs, let me know. Anyways guys, I'll see you in the next one. Flamingo out.